Ekpenyong. Good morning, Vimbai.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufi Fire. How are you? Apparently, I should observe social distance from you, but I refuse.
Because Dr. Abati is...
you said many of the men in the cemetery are there because of...
Dr. Abati.
I didn't ask you to.
Dr. Abati, these are my sisters.
I was just giving an opinion.
No, there's so many women out there. He doesn't... Both
these are my sisters. All my female colleagues are my sisters.
Oh,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we love
That's
that.
why
we
you hold them
you.
so tightly.
Whoa. We're being told there's not a lot of time. Not a lot of time.
When they are married,
but
keep your distance.
We will take this issue up on another occasion. Well, good morning, viewers, and welcome to today's edition of What's Trending. Can't wait to get into it, as of course we know that the political stories dominate the social media space at the moment. Now, as the dust continues to settle on the move by former Africa Democratic Congress chieftains Peter Obi and Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso into the Nigeria Democratic Congress, the NDC, over the weekend, various reactions continue to pour in. Well, the words "goodbye ADC" trended through most of the weekend as onlookers from across the political divide chimed in to the development. From the NDC side, it was naturally jubilation, as the party's national leader, Senator Seriake Dickson, welcomed the duo to a party that doesn't know status quo antebellum, with Peter Obi pleading that there should be no litigation because they want to build a party. They are not lawyers.
Please, let there be no litigation. Party members, please don't go to court. We are not lawyers.
Party members, not lawyers. Well, it was not jubilation all around. Stalwarts and chieftains of the ruling All Progressives Congress were quick to react to the development. APC National Publicity Secretary Felix Moka was quick to take to X, and he wrote, "Peter Obi, a political rolling stone that gathers no moss, roaming again in search of free, uncontested, unchallenged presidential ticket, never willing to remain to build any party, fantasizes to be president on a ticket delivered only on a platter of gold. APGA, PDP, LP, ADC, on to NDC. Fare thee well, Nigeria's inconsolable political drifter." Well, following this development, the official APC X handle replied to the tweet with a throwback video of Peter Obi criticizing people who move from party to party.
Politics is not about running from one place to the other. But when I see people jumping from here to here or doing this, no. Leadership is you have to be consistent. Know what you said yesterday, you fulfill it today.
Well, they say the internet never forgets. Meanwhile, the ADC website has been taken offline and replaced with a page saying that the website is currently undergoing maintenance, with many users online alleging that the website crashed due to mass deregistration of members from the party. However, I can categorically confirm that the ADC has not taken down this website. Recently, it has been down for a while due to reconstruction, and the registration portal is still alive and active on another site. Well, finally, to bring it all together, an old interview again of Peter Obi narrating how he's been pushed out of every party he has left has also began making the rounds.
I'm always a loyal member of any party. Yes, people will say he has left this party, One day, those who are close to me will tell the story of how I left all those parties. The truth is that every party I've left, I've been pushed to leave. I'm always a loyal member of any party. Yes, people will say he has left this party, One day, those who are close to me will tell the story of how I left all those parties. The truth is that every party I've left, I've been pushed to leave.
All right, well, those are his words. Very quickly, we'll take one comment from Obi on Leke Leke, who said, Peter Obi said he must be on the ballot. This is from Leke Leke. Peter Obi said he must be on the ballot, and I didn't understand the capacity of that statement. Last year, he met with Dixon before he created the NDC, and I didn't understand that meeting. Last week, he met with GEJ, the political godfather of Dixon, and I thought the meeting was unnecessary. I didn't know that Peter Obi was playing a 6D chess game, planning his exit while fighting for his stay. Well, so many ways to look at this, and I know you spent a better part of today's program analyzing this particular issue. Ayo, I'll just come to you because I know this morning your time was a little bit shorter where this issue is concerned.
Yeah, I was still able to make my point around his performance and Kwankwaso's performance in 2023 election. The decision to move to a new party, which last week following the Supreme Court judgment, we had already almost preempted that the two options before them would be either to sort out the internal wranglings, have a conversation with the aggrieved personalities in the ADC and then move on, or, which I felt was the more viable option, was to move to the other party. And there were two parties that came up. The PRP, which already has now had some instruments within the party factionalizing it, and then the NDC, newly minted NDC, even though they say that the process of registration has taken a number of years, but were formally recognized by INEC on the 5th of February 2026 as a registered party. There have been conversations around this, and I can understand the different reactions that have come out based on this defection. Especially with the old tape by Peter Obi saying that he was with APGA. I mean, APGA is such a forgotten story. I don't know if many people remember that he was even a member of that party. But was with APGA, and then of course, in the last elections, he had the Labour Party and carried literally the party with the obedient wave. And now, this year he'd moved on to the ADC. But following the court judgment, in fairness to him, a number of these parties have been embroiled in controversies. And based on the Nigerian constitution, you need a political party as a vehicle to contest an election. He has a right to contest or have he has the right to want to contest an election and the presidential election. He says he's doing this not because he's desperate in the statement he released to be president or vice president, but because he really wants to make a change in Nigeria, and every Nigerian should have the opportunity. On that note, I raised the question around this provision in the constitution whereby you have to be a member of a political party. Maybe we should begin to explore, having independent candidates so that we don't see this moving, rolling here and there. That's not based on ideology, but just based on a vehicle to go for election. The other point, and 2 points I'll make on this, is that number one is that unfortunately, what had been analyzed last week was for the coalition to present a credible opposition to the ruling party based on state might, also them to come united. And we call the Ibadan summit, it looked like there was some form of conversations amongst leading opposition parties, and that was seen as a good, direction for their progress. But now it looks like that has fallen apart. Will that work in his favor or not? We'll see in a very short while. The other thing is that the NDC has come out to say that they are looking to mobilize young people and women. And in the last elections in 2023, I don't want to discountenance the power and effect of young people who might not register as members of a political party but might come out to vote. The population size of the voting population in Nigeria is made up of largely younger people. So it might be an election that's decided by younger people. And that's why it's not too early to call, even though at the moment it seems like the ruling party, APC, under the President Tinubu administration has the upper hand based on this new development, but it is not yet Uhuru. Let's see what will happen. Yeah. Time is still a factor. They have a limited time to work. The NDC has, I don't know how much structure they have across, including the North. Let's see how that would happen, but it has made the race more interesting leading up to 2027.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people would argue that if this move were a non-entity, if it were a non-event, the ruling party wouldn't have started reacting to it so quickly. Yeah. So clearly, it's going to be an interesting race, and we'll be here to watch it all unfold. Now let's turn our attention to some issues concerning social justice. 5 days after he was declared missing, the Nigerian army over the weekend confirmed picking up blogger and activist Justice Mark Chidiebere, better known as Justice Crack, following a video he posted online, where he documented the alleged poor welfare of soldiers of the Nigerian army, showing videos of what he claimed to be their daily meal portions. The statement released by the army states in part, while the matter is being investigated for breach of the Armed Forces social media policy and an attempt to misinform the public. Preliminary report reveals that the soldiers discussed a wide range of issues with Justice Chidiebere, who seemed to be inciting soldiers to create discontent within the system. An example was a chat bordering on subversion, which Chidiebere had with the soldiers. It's important to state that a situation where civilians cultivate vulnerable personnel towards acts of subversion has far-reaching implications on discipline and national security. Well, of course, the statement goes on to say that Justice Crack has been transferred to the relevant civilian authority. However, Justice Crack's friends and well-wishers have sounded the alarm that they've received reports that he was subjected to torture whilst under army custody, further alleging that the Department of State Services, DSS, has refused to accept a transfer into their own custody due to his alleged battered state. Let's take a listen.
Since they carried Justice Crack, they blindfolded him, handcuffed him. Daytime, they keep him under sun. For nights, they put him for cold room. He has even half cold as we speak. So, and then for nights, they don't smuggle and go for DSS. They hurry where they carry and go DSS in cars, still even there with the military as we talk. Nigerians, we can confirm, say the barrister, Professor Sam Amadi, don't go there. They don't do the interview and all of that. We no one talk too much. The message is simple. We will increase the pressure until justice is released without any conditions because no offense or allegation has been made against him.
Well, a protest demanding Justice Crack's release has been scheduled for today, May 4th, in Abuja. However, concerns have, of course, been raised about the legality of the army picking up a civilian, and secondly, for detaining any individual for more than 48 hours without a court order. There's so many moving pieces to this. I'll begin with you, Dr. Abati. Very concerning developments, especially allegations of him being brutalized and battered.
Okay, there is a provision. Fundamental Human Rights Enforcement Procedures, 2009, which again reinforces Chapter 4 of the Constitution, Sections 35 and 36, which both talk about fair hearing. So when a person is accused of an offense, you cannot detain that person for more than 48 hours. You take the person to the nearest court within that jurisdiction. You explain the person's offense to him or her, and then the person is entitled to legal representation. Where you violate all of this, then of course there's a matter of fundamental human rights abuse. Now, in the case of Justice Crack, Chidiebere, you called him, it will appear that detaining him for up to 5 days will amount to a violation of those sections of the law that I have quoted. And he has the right to insist on his fundamental human rights. And other groups can do it for him, either pro bono or by legal representation. And oftentimes in Nigeria, that has been a problem. Persons are arrested and they are forgotten in detained persons' cells. Some people could be there for 3 years. There have been persons who have been there almost forever, and their rights are abused. If we speak about the rule of law, then of course that should be respected. Now, as to the main offense, again, this is part of the hazard of the media, whether it's a citizen journalist or it's just an influencer or social media or, a mainstream professional journalist. This gentleman was said to have brought a matter to the fore via social media, and that's why the military had arrested him and detained him. Now, torture is even not allowed. You are not supposed to torture a person who has not been convicted, who has not been given a term of punishment by a properly constituted court of law. If that is investigated and found to be true, and not just an ordinary allegation, then the military authorities will be very wrong in that regard to have tortured him. But the substantive issue is that this Justice Crack posted a video in which he was speaking more or less for aggrieved soldiers who said they were not being given good food, and they were at the battlefront. I think it was you that brought this story originally to our attention. And we have said, look, these soldiers' welfare is important, both for the police and other uniformed agents and agencies of government. to feed them in a miserable manner, to offer them dog food, would not be proper. The military authorities, I think they differentiated what they call RSA between what they feed people on the war front and what ordinarily is available to soldiers. But our own basic point is that welfare is important for those persons who have elected to defend the sovereignty of the country. But the military also has a rule. If you're an aggrieved officer or rank and file or whatever, you don't go under the armed forces rules to the social media. The appropriate process is for you to report to your superior officer or, go through the bureaucratic process, not to go to social media. And it is in that regard that Justice Crack is being accused of trying to incite the troops to cause indiscipline, to cause rebellion among the troops, which again will be classified as incitement. And it's not just the troops that is accused of inciting, also the public, because we are legitimately concerned that, soldiers should be well taken care of. But whatever it is, the rights of the persons, whether the soldiers who are, liable under court martial, or the gentleman I just described, whom we are told has been transferred to the civil authorities, is that justice must be done. Yeah. This should not be a case of victimization. Fair hearing is a basic principle in any kind of allegation. But more importantly, we return to the original point we made here, that soldiers should be well fed.
Correct.
If a man says, I can die for the country, I can defend sovereignty, it will be an act of ingratitude not to feed those soldiers well, whatever the rules may say. And as for the all the parties involved, they should have their day in court.
Absolutely.
And, they must get fair hearing and justice must be done. But we have to return to the point. You cannot be feeding repentant terrorists, giving them ashwebi and saying they have repented. Yeah. And the people who are in the war front, the battlefront, they are the ones who have to be saying, oh, they don't eat good food. Yeah. We give them good dog food. Fair is fair.
Yes, correct. Okay. Justice for justice. Yeah.
Because of the severity and importance of this, I can yield my right to speak in the next couple of topics. If this is the only thing I speak about today, please, can I be given the time to speak?
No, please, go ahead, Rufai. This is an important story.
In 2020, a serving major general was leading the troop on the war front, and they were deficient of materials. General Adeniyi made a video to show the deplorable state of supplies in the military. He was court-martialed, he was punished. But a serving general, passionate about the Nigeria, a patriot, had to make a video. Secondly, there's been another military officer that has even left the military that complained about the fact that they have to kit themselves and all of that. The question I would like to ask is, what did Justice Crack do that most military officers had not done or expressed before now? Thirdly, if you have something against the military officers that give Justice Crack an information, can you go after the military officers, not Justice Crack, which you now claim that was trying to incite? That's your own part of the story. We have not heard Justice's side of the story. Then you've taken him up and you've beaten him.
Allegedly.
No, allegedly. But you've taken him up, not allegedly, because the military came out to say that they've taken up. Does the military have a right to take up somebody, to kidnap somebody? No. So I think we need to be able to take the military as an institution to court for it. This is dehumanizing. Do they have the right to carry somebody on the street because they don't agree with you? The question I would like to ask is, if Justice Crack walked with over 100 bodyguards, American military with about 100 soldiers, snipers and guns everywhere, could they have picked him up? Why did they pick him up? Because he was defenseless. And you took him in and you started to torture him. Wait, not even allegedly, Vimbai. Taking somebody against their will is torture. He was kidnapped. So that's torture. He's been tortured already. You know what it means psychologically? To take somebody away for 5 days? They can't have access to their family and all of that, and you issue a statement? Is that not torture? Can they do that to any of the military men that went to take him? Vimbai, I'm talking from experience. Because a journalist also wrote a story against the Minister of State for Defense, and it was taken in. It was me that he called, and I intervened. And I called people in government to ensure the guy gets out. This is getting too much in this country. We are not safe. We advocate for the military. When they have their case of mutiny, don't we speak up for them? We speak up for them. So why do this to a citizen? Because if they can do this to a citizen, that means it can be done to anybody. Oh, this we have the case with MK Abiola back in the days in this country.
That was the military era. When a civilian we should.
But how has it changed, Ayo? How has it changed?
There should be a stark difference.
Just only the other day,
Okay.
people, like I said before, please, Ayo, Vimbai, I yield my right to speak on other topics. If this is the only topic I want to speak on today, please let it be the case. So how has it changed? The other day, weren't we advocating for 3,000 naira pay ration? Weren't we advocating for more money be given? Is this the military we advocate for that can just take citizens and take them out of the out of public land like that?
It could be anybody.
Because it could be anybody tomorrow. So what country are we living in?
I understand the passion, because I think we all feel it, and that's why we brought the story, and that's why we're going to continue following up on it, and we're going to
and
continue
something must be done. And we must call out the chief,
Absolutely.
the defense chief, the military chief, CJ Musa. Please, you are the defense chief. Something must. This is not the military. You people tell us to help build when you say we should have interactions.
So, I mean, you can
This is not
see
the country we should build.
This is an issue that has got a lot of people deeply passionate and emotional.
And Minister of Defense.
Minister of Defense, yes. So he's overseas. He was also a top military officer before now.
Yeah.
This is not the country we should build. This is madness. We don't have a country. We don't have a country at all. This is madness.
Okay. Well, we're here, and we're going to do our part. We're going to continue to do our part.
We have our sister from Zimbabwe living here because we have a country.
Well, they say I am happy here, but they say Nigeria go better. So we'll continue to advocate for Nigeria to move forward. All right. Okay. We're going to, yes, it could be anybody, and that's the point. Yeah.
I'm talking this morning.
Maybe totally valid.
Experiment.
Totally
Maybe they pick one of us here and take the person like that. Maybe we will be quiet like this.
I understand. I understand. And a lot of people, like I said, this is a deeply concerning issue and something that we're all very passionate about. We'll continue to play our part, and we encourage all of the authorities that be to also diligently and dutifully play their parts. Let's move on to another story where the popular Nollywood filmmaker Funke Akindele has trended. She was trending over the weekend after publicly calling out the airline Air Peace in a viral video, claiming that the airline left passengers, herself included, stranded at London's Gatwick Airport for almost 10 hours without their luggage, without hotel accommodation or clear communication from the airline altogether. In a video posted on her X page on Friday, Akindele says that after the airline disclosed that a bird strike delayed their flight, they were given no further updates, emphasizing that a number of elderly people were left stranded and in distress. Let's take a look.
Since 6 a.m., we've been at the airport. Nobody's communicating. It took them hours before telling us there was a bird strike. Okay, fine. For safety, you're not flying. Okay, fine. Can you give us our bags? Put them in the hotel. Let us go. You keep telling us you will give us bags. We've been sitting here for hours. Nobody's talking to us. We go to meet you. You are shouting. You are nagging. I don't feel like we. Yes, elderly ones. Our mothers are here.
All right, well, in the early hours of Saturday, Air Peace put out a statement in response to this, confirming that, yes, there was a delay caused by a bird strike, which meant the immediate grounding of the plane for safety inspections. They stated in part that the affected passengers were promptly informed of the incident and the cancellation of the service, and arrangements were made for their comfort, including hotel accommodation at the Hilton Hotel in London Gatwick, as well as necessary transit coordination. However, we encountered additional operational constraints, including airport congestion and delays from ground handling services responsible for baggage retrieval. These factors affected the timely retrieval of passengers' checked baggage, which in turn impacted the speed at which some passengers were transferred to their hotels. At no point were passengers abandoned. Communication was maintained with all affected passengers, and every effort was made to ensure their welfare throughout the disruption. This whole incident, of course, has revived conversations around passengers' treatment, welfare, especially as we're seeing Nigerian airlines increasingly competing in the global aviation space. They're opening up international routes from Lagos and Abuja to beyond. But as the aviation industry takes off, passengers' welfare should always be prioritized, as of course safety is just as important. And there were concerns about how this issue was handled on the ground. She talked about elderly people and, no feeding, just a lot of things that transpired.
Okay, so this issue actually affected me in a way because I had two family members who were leaving from the Lagos leg to the London leg. So let me just break this down. First of all, I'm glad you talked about safety being very important when it comes to aviation rules. Following the conversation, of course, was trending around the weekend based on the video made by Funke Akindele. I went to check out bird airstrikes because there was a lot of misinformation as well going out. And just to see how, to what extent, in fact, the email that was sent to us that they were cancelling the Lagos leg, which was not this direct leg, was they actually, they inserted or attached the picture of the bird and the part of the aircraft where it affected, just to demonstrate the fact that there was an actual bird strike. Now, on a global basis, bird strikes or wildlife strikes are quite common, more common than we actually know in aviation circles. Just to mention, so two issues here, the bird strike and then the management of the issue of the matter by Air Peace. There are 54 wildlife strikes in the United States, or that happened in the United States in a day in 2024. And usually the protocol for aviation security is that once there's an airstrike, the flight is grounded until there's an inspection done to ensure that the plane can take off. So it's totally out of the control of the airport operators. Now, following that, so you look at the numbers, they're quite high and it causes a lot of, airline disasters. And so safety first is usually the, airport protocol. Now, the way it was managed, according to that video, they said that there were some people who were stranded at the airport. But on further investigation, because I did speak to a number of, someone from Air Peace, that you cannot, for an international flight, you cannot have your permit given to you if you don't have your contract with the hotel in the event of such a matter happening. However, what's happening in this case is that some people, and you can understand the breach of trust, wanted their luggage out before they would agree to go to the hotel accommodation. Now, with regards to the luggage, it has nothing to do with the airline. It's the airport ground staff that handles that. And so in order to put things in context, however, in the era of communication management, they try to post up things, try to explain it, try to analyze it. I think it's important. The lesson here for me is that when things happen, it is difficult to run a business in Nigeria and even internationally. But when things happen, it's important to get the correct information out so that people don't get agitated unnecessarily. Also, the final point is this, that there's a lot of mistrust when it comes to our brand Nigeria. I think we need to build brand loyalty for things made in Nigeria beyond the use of airlines. Even when it comes to our products, some people are more, want to go abroad to buy certain things. Even the cars that our politicians use, we often advocate for made in Nigerian goods. I think it's important for us in the area to have a sense of national pride and not be very quick to just discard anything that's made in Nigeria. We can make it work, and we have shown this and demonstrated it globally. It's important to know that.
Dr. Bati, can you take it together with the next story? Can we just do that so that we can run through the story? It does still link up with Nigerians abroad and travel. President Bola Tinubu on Sunday departed the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, for the first leg of his official three-nation visit to France, Kenya, and Rwanda. The trip, rescheduled from Saturday, will see the president engage in high-level discussions in France before proceeding to Nairobi, Kenya, for the Africa-France Summit, co-chaired by Presidents Emmanuel Macron and William Ruto. According to a statement released on Friday by the President's Special Advisor on Information Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, Tinubu is expected to attend the Africa-France Summit in Nairobi, as I stated, co-chaired by the two presidents. However, in light of this, political commentator Japhet JJ Omojua has publicly expressed frustration over what he described as an unreasonable delay by the French embassy in Nigeria in returning his passport. He took to social media and he revealed that his passport had been held for a staggering 8 weeks following a visa application process. So his post read, My passport is currently at France in Nigeria. It has been there for nearly 8 weeks. That wait will inspire an article about the France-Africa Summit summit set to happen in Nairobi. The piece will be written by my Nigerian passport. It will carry the views of the average African on yet another summit between a former colonial power and the continent it once owned. Our political leaders and even we regular citizens have a habit of letting certain elephants stay in the room unchallenged. My passport has been sending signals for days. I intend to be its voice. The elephant will get its due recognition. I've been grounded for traveling for so long, I can now hear the voices of inanimate objects, especially my Nigerian passport. P.S. 8 weeks is 15% of the year. So just to put it all in context, of course, the French embassy has since responded, trying to get further details so that they can engage him. But, we're going through a lot to try and get visas to travel around the world. When we do travel, we want to travel with our airlines, and then there's some inconveniences that happen. There's a lot of, like Ayo was saying, there's just a lot of broken trust and a lot of loss of disillusionment, if I may call it that, that's happening. 8 weeks without your passport, it's not something you hear about often happening in embassies around the world. And also, you hear there's, phobic attacks happening against Nigerians in South Africa. So many.
But he can withdraw the passport.
So many.
I've applied for a Schengen. France is Schengen. I've applied for a Schengen visa where the week I applied, I needed to travel to Ghana.
Yeah.
And I went to withdraw my passport, and afterwards I brought it back. So you can apply to withdraw his passport.
So, I think the context
no, but you can do that. You can.
You can.
No, I'm Vimbai.
You can,
Vimbai.
But you miss your engagements.
I'm seeing what is. You don't miss your engagement. Once the visa application process is on, you can apply to withdraw your passport, and when you come back, you can give it over to them. If you have other things to do, you can apply to withdraw the passport. It's as simple as that. I have done it.
No, but if you're going to France and you need a French visa.
Yes, from the embassy that you submitted to, you can apply to withdraw your passport.
Okay.
Once there's no visa on it. So I don't know why that has not been done.
Okay.
Nobody has the right to take your passport for this long now. I deal with the German embassy, Schengen. You should be able to be done now.
Okay. On Airpeace, I find the statement that has been issued by Airpeace adequate and instructive, well written, because in international law, there's something called force majeure. When you have a force majeure, it means it's a situation that is beyond your control. And it could be like flood, it could be bird strike, it could be war, it could be something that you had not planned for that happened. And Airpeace is saying the situation on the Gatwick-Lagos route was a case of force majeure. And that they had additional constraints in terms of the ground handling, in terms of airport congestion, but that it is not true that they abandoned the passengers, and that they made arrangements to put them in a hotel, the Hilton, the London Hilton in Gatwick, and all of that. So, but the more important thing is that Airpeace has a reputation for insisting on safety. Either on this domestic route, they don't take risks. And the first law in aviation is safety. And recently, the ICAO rated Nigeria even above the standard in Europe and even the standard in Africa. And I think that it's important to have an airline that maintains standards and that insists that, whatever happens, the safety of our passengers come first. Whatever, issues may have existed in the past in terms of relationship and reputation and branding. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I've always said, is the chief foreign policy officer of the country. Now, there's going to be Africa-France summit. That's the one that is taking place in Nairobi. And of course, it's good to have our president there. And it's also good to have President Tinubu seeing President Ruto face to face and telling him, okay, assess my English face to face.
Well, he's our in-law anyway.
Which may have consequences. That
implications.
And it's good to also have the president in Rwanda at Africa CEO Forum, where you are going to have about 2,000, private sector leaders discussing issues about growth and all of that. Now, as for Omojua, look, visas are given at the discretion of the issuing consular office. You cannot dictate. There's also the issue of reciprocity. But it is true that certain embassies are notorious for holding on to people's visas and causing a lot of distress. South Africa, for example, is very notorious.
Yes.
It's not only xenophobia that is their issue. You go there to get a visa, God help you.
I think our time is up. Thank you so much. That's all we have time for today.